Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. Welcome to WYR Reforging. This is my weekly show where every Friday just kind of hang out and chill. It's a little more informal than the pre-recorded stuff that I do. And we just cover a variety of topics from hobby progress, games played, some cool stuff in the news, that kind of thing from a few different miniature games. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. So the way this show works, if you haven't been here for one before, first of all, welcome. I'm going to cover a topic, and then in between topics, I'll go and I'll look in the chat and interact with people, answer questions, that kind of thing. I do a lot of it. I like interaction, so I just don't want to interrupt every single thought to to have it, and so that's what we're gonna do. So I see the chat's filling up. People can hear and see me okay. I appreciate that. And yeah, we're just going to be kind of a chill episode today. I have a few things to talk about in terms of hobby progress, games played, that kind of thing. And then the main topic for today is going to be your army in 3.0. So if you don't know, Age of Sigmar 3.0 hasn't technically dropped. It goes up for pre-order, I think, tomorrow or Sunday for Dominion and the core book. And then yesterday, there was a great live stream by Facehammer, I believe was the name of the show, where they basically walked through the General's Handbook. So if you have seen those spoilers online, I guess they're not really leaks. They told us we could share it as soon as we got it. I just didn't get mine yet. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to talk too much about points differences because, quite frankly, here's my reaction to all points differences. Cool. That's it. So, but what we're going to talk about in our main topic is, what kind of steps can you go through to stay positive about your army and find new ways, because it's a new wild frontier out there in terms of list building and design. So it's the perfect opportunity to try stuff that you think is cool, and we're going to walk through how to do that together here. So looking forward to your Maggotkin thoughts. Absolutely. I'm off to play a local hobby shop. Have a wonderful stream. Awesome, buddy. That's great. So we're going to jump right into hobby progress as we are wont to do. Let me just get my light set up here. And we'll go to the downward cam. All right. So for hobby progress, we got a few things going on here. Up first are my unit of Praetors. We're going to be just kind of doing the last touches on these during the stream. Basically, I'm just going to slap some flowers on these things and paint the hero rocks that they all have a leg on. What else do I got? I think I've showed these guys off before in a stream, but these were my test models, a bunch of Sequitors that I had, and I absolutely love them. Here's a black background so you can kind of see. And the scheme is pulled right from the current Stormcast Battle Tome, where it's Knights Excelsior have white armor, and then their accent fabrics, I guess, when they wear cloaks and that kind of thing, it's black and then sort of like a deep maroon type thing. I love it. So I have those. Basically, these were my test models, like I said. And then the rest of it, I'm painting up specifically the stuff that I need to get ready for my Path to Glory army that I brought forth in episode 0. And again, that might change, like that composition of the army might change eventually, just because of points and stuff like that. I'll figure it out later. I haven't even honestly really looked, so I don't really care. But yeah, so I got that. So I got some progress done on these guys. I believe, let me just double check. Yes, this is my first unit of Dominion that will be completed, and I really, really do like them. I chose them because I wanted to get the stuff with capes out of the way, like fabrics. Because these boys, these are the, what are they? Vindictors? I always want to say Vindicators, but that's a tank. Okay. Vindictors are going to be fairly quick to paint up. This guy had to stop in the middle of them, but realistically, they're mostly armor. There's no fabrics on them, really, so it's just going to be armor. The blue parts, the gold trim, done. So they'll go nice and speedy-like. Beyond that, what else have I gotten done? Actually, I wanted to show off. It's not hobby progress, but it was something cool. So, Gur and Guran are two realms that I love because I feel like they can have like the most vibrant basing schemes, if that makes sense, like lots of flowers and plants and that kind of thing. And the good folks at Gamers Grass, they didn't send me this to review per se, just to check it out. They were looking for feedback, and it's just a metric ton of different kinds of flowers. That's kind of their jam over there is flower making. And there's just a myriad of them, and I am so grateful because these are just fun. Like, just fun. So I've been kind of mixing them around. I don't want to have just one flower color on my bases, and I've been enjoying it, you know. I think it looks cool. It's a little pop of color. You could even, if you wanted to, use them to denote which unit is which. You can have a unit with red flowers, a unit with purple flowers, whatever you want to do. I don't know. I just thought it was really cool, and I wanted to shout this out because I hate basing, and these guys make it very simple. But they were just looking for feedback on their new product launch and that kind of thing. So I wanted to shout them out because I think it looks cool. And we have these guys, and if you're curious as to what they're standing on, this is a metal tray from a fancy new case that I got that I'm going to do a review of this week. I'm very excited. It's a magnetic tray case, so these guys can not flip anywhere when you do that. And you can see that same color scheme. I was trying to map out how I wanted the colors to look on some of these other heroes from Dominion. And let me just set that off to the side, all nice and gentle. Okay. And so for like our Knight Arcanum, I went with the dominantly maroon color on her with a black helmet because normally they have a white helmet on gold armor. That's the only one we've seen so far. So I wanted to invert that just a little bit. And then for my Lord Imperator, I can't remember which one it is. He has the maroon bottom robe, and then his cape is black. And yeah. So I'm still working on this. I decided, I was kind of painting up the heroes together during my last hobby stream. And then I was like, you know what's even smarter than that? Divvying it up. So it's like, finish the Praetors, do a unit of 5 Invictors. Pick a hero, do that as a reward. Then another unit of 5 Vindictors, and kind of just break it up that way so that my batch painting doesn't drive me insane. That's about it for hobby progress. What I'm going to do now is just kind of pause here for a second. Does anybody have any hobby progress that they would like to share? Let's see. Hey Doug, book recommendation, Dynasty of Monsters, Lukovi model, all based on Gur. Lots of world building with a weird city on stilts. I will check that out. That sounds awesome. All right. Let's see, what else? So I'm going to put these guys here for when I'm ready to start doing my hobby during the main topic. And while I'm just waiting for some responses, because there is a delay between you and I am going to throw some flowers on these bases so I can call them done. Let's see here. Oh, one second. Went and lost everything I was holding on to. You hear a sudden crash and the wailing of 1,000 gnashing nerd teeth. That would be me. I'm going to try and, as best I can, cover up some of these... Is this glue done? Yeah, this glue's done. Okay. I'm a professional YouTuber. I know what I'm doing. I bought a Bone Shaper model because I like how it looks. It's next on the hobby table. Nice. Yeah, some of those Bone Reaper sculpts are just to die for. So for these guys, they all have a little like, well, she doesn't, but most of them have like a little extra slot where you can like put an extra peg in, and it gets real annoying. Like you're like, I don't want to have a peg, open peg in my war field. I was never a massive fan of. I mean, in terms of the actual models themselves, these were pretty easy to put together. I'm gonna take a big fat one and cover up the hole on this guy. Boom. Nailed it. Let's grab a flower. Let's do a yellow flower. I see some answers coming in. I will get to them in just a hot second. What I like about these, if you look on the back here, you can see they're all in some really weird shapes, so you can make some really unique patterns. I like it. And for the lady, let's go with... Ooh, let's go with the purple. Grab just a small one here. Put the flower down. We'll grab a grass patch just to kind of make it look a little more lively. And as for you, I think I put me. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm calling the unit Dunzo. All right. Let me just pack all this back up. That was easy. Boom. First unit of Dominion. Done. So now they get to go on the painted magnet rack. Yes. So I have a whole rack of unpainted models from the Sequitur chamber, the rack of unpainted Dominion models, and then I have my painted everything rack, which is somewhat pleasing. Okay, I'm done with my little hobby interlude. Let's see what you guys got. So we got, been holding off on buying as I wait for Dominion. Got to ask how you feel about the push fit models. Suggestions on sealing the gaps. You know, honestly, I didn't have a lot of problems when it came. Turn that little extra light off. I didn't have a ton of problems when it came to the Dominion models. There was exactly two that were wonky. One of the Praetors, his cloak has a line where the front panel of the cloak meets the actual back cape of it. That one you're going to want to seal in with glue because it does leave a gap if you don't. And then the other one was the Annihilators. This guy right here, he's the leader of the unit. He has the shield down on the ground. I've never seen this kind of design choice idea, or I'll go to the downward camera to show a little better, but his hand, which is on the shield, is not actually connected to the wrist. This shield and hand segment is its own little peg. And so you build the guy with no hand, put him on one peg, and then try to finagle the shield with the hand into position on it. And it's fine. Like, I can put a tiny dollop of glue and kind of pin it in there, and it'll stay, but it's just a weird design choice to have that be a separate stand specifically. So I don't really know that one, but it's not a big deal. But those were the only two issues that I had. So keep that in mind. I mean, for most of them, yeah, if you just apply enough pressure in the right places and be careful about snapping weapons and that kind of thing, they kind of popped right together, especially the Vindictors. I can tell you, these guys popped together no problem. Some of the leaders and stuff with their flowing robes and things, it got a little more complicated, but yeah, it wasn't that bad at all. Let's see. I like how the Lord Arcanum got demoted to Knight Arcanum. I was having this discussion with a guy at my local game store. He's just like, is that a new unit? I feel like it's been around for a while. I was like, nah, it's technically newish in the word jumble game that is Games Workshop naming conventions. It's technically new. Let's see, just painting the Cursed City skeleton here. Oh, cool, Jamie, that's awesome. Been painting loads of Hedonites just in time to get shafted by the GHB. I haven't even looked at their stuff. Honestly, for me, I'm gonna level with you. When it comes to points, I don't care. Like, what I mean by that is, it's not that it's not important. It is, of course it is. But what I mean by that is, I deploy a thing called radical acceptance, which is just, okay, this is what it is. How am I gonna win with it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't grieve it or anything like that. So, Uncle Adam makes a video about covering those holes in the bases. Okay, I'll check that out. I mean, honestly, I think, well, the Vindictors have a bunch of them. Yeah, okay, I'll check that out. Let's see. These Dominion Golden Boys are part of a new Stormcast chamber. Not per se. I mean, they're kind of like pulled from around various places. I think the emphasis is going to be less on Stormcast having individual chambers and more on brotherhoods or strike forces, which can be composed of elements from a bunch of them. But they're all there for one specific purpose. So, for example, like the Lord Imperator, his lore is that he's like the second in command of the entire storm host, which is like a super lofty position. But I mean, there's no technical reason why he's there. It's just in the story that came with the book, he was the guy for the job, and that's what he had. So, let's see. Question: how are you handling the 3.0 release / I'm going to say, assume you meant launch. Make sure you pace yourself. Oh, thank you so much. Brandon Trippy is an awesome person and patron, and I really appreciate you, buddy. For me, how I'm handling it is I dip in for the parts that I find interesting, like community articles. When people are excited about things, quite frankly, I'm there for it. The second the conversation turns to complaining about, well, my army didn't get blank, or, well, we lost blank, I tend to mute those feeds. I'm not going to lie to you, and that's how I keep myself sane. Because of what I do, I'm plugged into a lot of things, so if everyone starts collectively, like, whining and complaining, it's just all I see. And so I have to back off a little bit from social media and stuff like that. But I mean, other than that, everyone I've met in person, everyone that I talk to, like my actual core group of friends, like the Rerolling Ones guys, we're all very excited. So it's been a lot of positivity. Been painting my first unit of 60 grots. Holy hell. Bless you. That's a lot of grots. What magnetic tray and case do you use? It is the A case. It's like a one-man small business. I saw it on Facebook, and we worked out a deal where I would do some tutorial and like basically video editing work for him in exchange for a case. So it worked out pretty well. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool thing. I'll do a whole video showing it off. I love it. I run mono bone splitters, and I'm struggling to change my army composition with the new reinforcement rules. We'll walk through it. It's the main topic for today. But let's go on to games played. I'm going to just, because we're kind of wading into that topic of the main topic, I want to kind of move on. And we'll spend a lot of time on it, I promise. As far as games played, I've played 2 since my last show. 1, neither of them are Age of Sigmar, because we were in that weird middle space where I had the rules, but I couldn't share them with anybody, so I wasn't really playing anything. There was a game of Conquest, Last Argument of Kings, where I took my Spires out, and I got absolutely nut-stomped by some Nords, by a great local player named Aaron. He is a Vanguard, which is like their, volunteer community builder program kind of a thing. He's an absolute gem, and I'm playing him again tomorrow. So, very excited about that. I have lost no enthusiasm for Conquest. I think it is a very different game that just scratches a different itch, and I really do like it. So, we're going to talk a little bit about what they got going on here in a smidge, but I had a wonderful time with that. There's a mechanic in that game where, for my Spire specifically, you can hurt one unit for 2d6 wounds, and then heal another unit for 2d6 wounds. But you have to roll those things separately. And so I rolled 2d6 on the unit I'm hurting, which I think, it decimated, it has a literal term. It took away more than half the unit. Like, it just hurt them. Not a big deal, so it's pronounced trip. Thank you. Thank you very much, buddy. And then when I went to go heal the other unit, I think it healed like 3 wounds. Like, it did nothing. So it was a net loss. And I imploded my own massive horde unit to do no healing to another one. It's just it was a really funny moment in wargaming, right? A lot of those funny little quibs that you can do where it's like, man, this doesn't seem like a good idea, but I kind of want to try it. So that was a super fun game. And then following that, last Sunday, I think. It must have been Sunday. I played my first game of 40k 9th edition in a Crusade format. There's a guy named Steve locally. So he basically, it was a training game. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that I lost. I got crushed. And I'm not going to like blame the Tyranid Codex or anything like that. But after like turn 2, we were both like, okay, there's no way for me to win this, but I would like to keep going because I want to learn the mechanics of the various units that I have. So we played it out, and it was a great time. I got to meet some other local store people, all very narrative driven, very great folks. So I'm very excited. A few of them are excited for Age of Sigmar, so I'm hoping really hard to kind of like nudge them in that direction as well. And I think hopefully I can get some. Let's see. Brandon, did you have a question you wanted to throw out to the group? I mean, anytime there's a super chat donation, you get to control the topic. I can do more than just correctly pronounce your last name, my friend. I'll keep an eye out for you. You don't have to do it again. But what's your favorite small conversion? Mine is replacing Ossiarch Bone Reaper heads with Citadel skulls. Small conversion. I would say... Oh, here's one. Giving Adeptus Mechanicus weapons to Cities of Sigmar units, where they have this sci-fi look, but they still have a flintlock style design. Like, they don't make sense for AdMech in like the most comical, awesome, because that's what Warhammer 40k should be kind of way. But they look real sick on a Cities of Sigmar model. I think it was either Duncan or Peachy when they were showing off their personal armies. I believe it was Duncan. He had something like that. And I just, the second I saw it, I was like, I want to do that thing. So, let's see. Late to the party, I bought a bunch of cheap Nurgle miniatures, and they seem to have not got lots of point increases. I think they might become good now. It depends on the unit. I'm just saying lots of Nurgle units. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, but the Virkros model. Duncan just made some Grimdark model worth looking at. Yeah, I thought he did something like that. I thought it was pretty cool. That's it for my games played. And so at this point, I'm going to open the chat here. Did anybody play any particularly interesting games? I unfortunately ran out of time before the stream started. I was running a little late. So I'm working right now to get all of the news and stuff pulled up for us. Basically, it's really just 2 sites I need to pull up. But go ahead and throw your chats in there. Agent Gash, hi, hope all is well. Hey buddy, how you doing? News. So here's the thing. I am not going to cover any of the faction-specific articles simply because, I'll be honest with you, I really do believe that they are really just there to promote core rules that have changed, right? And at this point, many of us have seen those things. If you haven't, there is a dime a dozen of content creators who just read the book to you. So if that's something that you are jonesing for, please help yourself to that. There was one other thing I wanted to do. There we go. Yeah, okay. There was a tweet that I wanted to pull up and chat about too that I really liked, so we're gonna do that. Let's see. I don't care what it costs me, but I'm going to make a list with the Twins of Slaanesh work. That, Paolo, that is the exact attitude that I love. I don't care. I'm going to make this work. That's what I like to hear. Let's go ahead and talk about some news here. So we have over on the G-Dubs page. Let me just make sure that that worked. It did. Now you get to see my screen inception. Lots of articles, man. They've been just pumping out content for each faction. So let's talk about some of the things. This is one I have not read yet. Pre-order Dominion. Set your alarm. I mean, it doesn't matter if bots take them all. Pre-order your sets. You shouldn't be able to... Once you get to the front of the queue, you'll have 10 minutes to add everything you need to your basket and check out. Man, I feel like that's setting themselves up for a rough shot. You'll be limited to 2 copies per order. Okay, that at least is helpful. Yeah, okay, that's basically it. They're just telling you when things go live. I am not going to be pre-ordering one. Games Workshop was kind enough to send me one, and so I'm not going to take somebody else's, basically. I will enjoy these kits when they come out separately. So that's basically it. If you go ahead and check out this thing, in the USA, if you're really curious, it's going to be 10 a.m. Is that Pacific? Yeah. Okay. That's basically all there is to that one. And then if you have not seen it, on the Warhammer Age of Sigmar website, they have introduced this wonderful timeline. Where is it at? I just had the page. Dang it. Okay, yeah. Here we go. Where it basically breaks down some of the most memorable moments in the Age of Sigmar universe. Now, it's of course not all of them. Like, the Age of Myth is much more than just 5 things, but these are some great story beats to get you caught up if you are new to the setting. The Age of Chaos one is actually quite lengthy, and I like it. Let's see. Yep, Age of Sigmar, Realm Gate Wars, First Blow, all that kind of stuff. So that's all great. So I would highly recommend checking that out. To be honest with you, there's not a whole lot else on the community page that I wanted to cover, simply because a lot of the information, like, we're in this weird place where so many people have the books and the rules, obviously, but the game hasn't fully launched. It's a weird place to be, and so I tend to suggest people go hobby for a little bit. Let's see. Let me get my chat pulled up again. Agent of Gas, just driving back across the country on my way back home. Thought I would listen to your sweet voice ease my journey. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Thank you. Yes, it is a very, very smooth timeline, and I like it quite a bit. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yep. Okay, so that's it for Warhammer Community. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up. I do love me some Conquest, so I'm going to chat about this briefly. They put up a few things for pre-order that I think are very important. The biggest one is going to be right here in the top left. Conquest campaigns. They are putting together a campaign system, and they're lore dumping a whole bunch of stuff about the Wadroon and other factions that are probably going to be coming out Q4 of this year and or next year, is my understanding. So I am very, very excited about that and their coverage of it. I was told I was getting a copy of this, but I don't actually know anything about when it's coming in or anything like that. Very excited to read, how different games and different game companies and writers approach narrative gaming. I'm very excited to see where they go with it. Parabellum was kind enough to send me a box of Incarnate Sentinels, these guys right here. I did not know that they were going to be priced at $90. My understanding for how this works, and this is just something I was told from a player who's been around Parabellum games for quite a while, is they release like special sculpts and stuff like that in resin for a limited time, and then replace it with a cheaper plastic kit in the future. And so, yes, these are expensive, but it is worth. If that price point is outrageous for you, that's fine. I mean, they're bigger than Varengard, my god, which is more expensive. But yeah, if that's just not something you're interested in, just wait. It'll come out in plastic and be cheaper. So that's my understanding of that. What else? A lot of stuff for the Dweg home. People have asked, when a hero is on their own stand, why are they on their own stand? Why are there 3 empty spaces? And that's for things like this. If you want to add them, you don't have to. They're just cool little accent models doing cool accent model things to act as a retinue for your leader. So it's a cool thematic way to make them fit more in an army, and I like that quite a bit. So anyway, There is that. And that's basically all there is for Conquest. Stay tuned for more info when it comes to the Conquest campaign thing. I'm so excited for that. Campaigns are always, to me, the most exciting thing to cover, and y'all seem to love them, so I am excited. Now, the last thing I had here, and it will help lead us into our main topic. I will pause, but AOS Coach, who is a friend of the show, absolutely. He's a friend down under. We love him even though he's upside down. Being a visual learner, I found this to be a helpful exercise in list building using core battalions. 20 witch elves with shields, 20... And basically, he breaks his list down. I'll just do this. And with, like, cheap Photoshop, drags and drops what units he wants to fill what role. If you don't know, this is the core battalion thing. To my knowledge, they don't cost anything. Like I said, I haven't really been paying attention to the GHB coverage and that kind of stuff. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't really care. But this essentially allows, if you're more of a visual person like I am, you know, you build your army list and then you can assign them into various core battalions to see how things stack up. And I like this. I don't know. I saw it on Twitter last night and I was like, hey, buddy, can I use this in my show and give you credit for it? And he was super obliging. But it's just the kind of stuff that helps me personally understand where every unit belongs in my army. It's the kind of thing that if you were to go to like a super crazy hardcore event, I don't know, I kind of want this for my opponents to be able to like reference it, you know? Like I'd print it out and laminate it. You could even go the extra mile and take pictures of your actual models. Yeah. Sadly, it feels like West Coast plays Conquest more than East Coast. Well, I'm in the dead center. I'm in the Midwest, so I don't know. What website is this? Oh, that was for Parabellum, for the game Conquest: The Last Argument of Kings. Where do we access this? If you're asking about this picture, he just made it himself, like on not even Photoshop. You could do this on MS Paint. Take a screen capture of the battalions thing, and then drag and drop some photos on top of the various models. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's see. That's about it. I just wanted to show off this. I thought it was a great way to visualize how you can organize your battalions and things like that. The strength of it to me is just you have to keep all of your core battalions organized. Like, you don't have to. I mean, I just mean, like, because there's no limit on them, it is so important to keep track of which battalion has spent its, you know, once per game ability, what units are a part of that, who has access to what. So stuff like this, I find very appreciable. So, yeah. Will be interesting to see what they do with the Azir app, with new battalions, etc. If it'll be good or just stick with Battlescribe. I have no idea. No idea, but I hope they do something cool, if I'm honest with you. That's all I got. I hope it's cool. Let's see. So with that out of the way, does anybody, I'm going to leave this up here for folks, does anybody have any thoughts or criticisms of the news so far? It's been, you know, honestly, the news when it comes to Warhammer community has been a bit, it's definitely not dry. There's always information in there that's interesting. It's just, you know, they're trying to assure people that their faction is not trashed here now, which is basically what everybody else on the internet seems to be trying to tell each other. And so once we're done with that, I'll give it a second here for people to respond. But then we're going to move into our main topic, which is, as stated, your army. My only criticism has been the knee-jerk reactions to them. I know, right? My only criticism, yeah, exactly. So we'll dive into talking about your army in this edition. What is your opinion that the rules of AOS have grown from 16 pages to 44? I don't feel like it really did, if I'm perfectly honest with you, because it was 16 pages of core rules and then a general's handbook and various supplements that were stacked and stacked and stacked. I do feel like going straight to the 44 pages that's filled with examples, sidebar comments to help with context in the most part, all those kinds of things. All it did was condense the expansion and the growth that the game naturally had for the last 5 to 6 years and brought them into one cohesive set of language. So, like, I don't think that it just went from 16 to 44. It wasn't that simple. It was 5 years of growth and expansion and new design areas that all needed to be brought together and kind of codified. And yeah, as Zach pointed out, that's 44 pages of lots of spaces and open area and that kind of thing. Whereas even if you go way back when AOS launched and it was 4 pages, that was a dense ass 4 pages. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It was like reading a wall of text. It was like it was a wall of letters, like you did something wrong to your girlfriend and she was just listing off everything wrong about you. You know what I mean? It's that wall of text where you're like, I can't even. I think the faction articles are for the most part pointless. I understand why they as a company want to do them. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of meat on the bone. Let's see. Didn't GW earlier this week say that Dominion pre-order would be 2 weeks? This implies they made enough, right? I have no idea. I'm hoping they made enough. I sure do hope so. They have said in their live stream that they made a ton, so they plan to not have any problems. And there is a limit of ordering 2 per order, so you and a buddy can get, 2 sets and then swap so that you get double of whatever side you want, is presumably my thought. If everyone is trashed here, nobody is. That's exactly right. That's actually a topic we're going to get into here in a second. Okay, so I'm going to go to the downward cam. And I'm going to bust out some paints. And I'm just kind of horse around here with these guys. I got some gold and blue to work on. Let me move my chat to where I can see it a little more easily. As well as all of your guys' comments. And I'm just going to chat and paint. And remember, as I'm discussing these things, there is a delay between the two of us. So if you have a comment or you want to refute or retort, go ahead and just say, when you say blank, this makes me think this, so I kind of know what you're talking about. Because otherwise I'm like, what part of my speech were you referring to? Let's see. Brush cleaner shirt. We got this guy here. So I think for this one, I want to just basically finish this guy out with the gold. I started the gold on the shield and I was like, oh crap, I got to do the blue. So then I went backwards and did that. So I'm going to finish out the gold on him to get a sense of where all the trim is and that kind of stuff. And we'll kind of go from there. I might actually get this sheath here real quick first for Wildwood. Where are you at? Agros. Psycho Brown. Okay. Stormcast are my first and favorite army. I have a close to 7,000 points. Poorly painted, but I feel like they're the most fun to paint. I'll be honest with you. I made this joke before, but I was like, man, I feel like I'm born to paint Stormcast. It is an enjoyable, simple exercise for me. And I like it. Okay, so your army in 3.0. So I'm going to start off with a few just simple facts, ranging from the obvious to the things that people just need to understand. Everybody was affected by the switch. There was nobody, regardless of your opinion or how you feel about another faction, that walked away unscathed. We are all struggling to say, okay, well, the points have changed, the limits have changed on horde units. Sometimes, some armies, I should say, have been affected more than others. And my immediate things to point out are Beasts of Chaos and Slaves to Darkness, who rules as written don't quite function the way that they are intended to do very clearly. Like, they don't, in terms of like having keywords and mixing them with other units and that kind of stuff. It's very interesting. So that needs some attention. There are things that need attention. That being said, we're all at a point. There's still plenty of questions as far as FAQs and that kind of thing. So there's still time. We're still working on it. So, but what I'm saying is, keep in mind that many people are still in this kind of limbo, and it is fantastically easy to get sucked into the fallacy that grass is greener on the other side. You can sit here, as I have seen in the chat when I first started this stream, and say, well, my army was hurt real bad. At least, at least for X army, they didn't get ruined in Y way. And it's like, no, every army was affected. If you think Hedonites of Slaanesh are ruined, there's a bunch of people who probably think that Hedonites of Slaanesh got off easy. That's a fun thing to say. Anyway, thematic. So there's those kinds of things. So just remember, this is a point in time that we are all working through the same thing. How does my army work? And I would invite you, I can't make you, but I would invite you to think of this as a fun challenge to be overcome, rather than Games Workshop taking something away from you. They're trying to, whenever they do an edition change, it is generally, I'm going to say, for the purposes of making the game more engaging, more fun, and ultimately more enjoyable, because at the end of the day, that's how they sell product, having a fun game. And part of that is just, it needs to mix up every once in a while. So we're going to just drop the whole thing as we talk about armies. We're going to deploy radical acceptance. Whether you like the points changes, the size of your units, how the core rules and army building affects things, take a deep breath, put that off to the side. Because today we're going to be exploring how can you go about finding cool things in your army in this time where there are so many unknowns about what is good, what is not, and just love the hobby and be optimistic about exploring new options for yourself. That's the core idea of how I approach edition changes. Things are different and things will be different, but I can enjoy them for what they are right now. So, you could do a time lapse of leaving your palette in some acetone. That would be amazing. Is that freehand work? No, this is actually sculpted in. It's pretty cool. They did a great job on the banners. Brandon Tripp, do you think the Stormcast models have all been revealed? I don't think so. I believe they said there's more. Spell Hunter, still don't like the miscast rule. I mean, it's been around for a long time. Not in AOS specifically, but Fantasy Battles, 40k, it never went away. So there's a lot of those things where it's like, there's a lot of people online being like, oh, my faction got it worst. I'm not saying that it was distributed equally, the changes, of course. But I can say that every single one of us has the opportunity to look at this as a challenge rather than a setback. Like a healthy challenge to overcome rather than like they ruined my army is what I'm trying to say. So with that in mind, here's what I suggest. Okay? I actually don't have a Stormcast Battle Tome. Loaned mine to a friend before I moved. Never had time to get it back, and quite frankly stopped caring. So I don't have a Stormcast Battle Tome. I'm probably going to grab one today, even though, yes, I know it's going to go out of date here pretty soon. But what I suggest you do is you grab your Battle Tome, pull up the page from that stream. If you're really worried about match play specifically, how about that? Pull up the stream from Facehammer where they go through and talk about all the points for the various factions, so you know exactly what you have at your disposal, how big your units are, things like that. And just start relearning how to build your army list. Right now, there is no one online who can tell you objectively what is the best thing, what is the worst thing. There is just you and your ability to come up with something cool, and that is a fun, creative space. Now, if you're not into that kind of thing and you would rather wait for someone, to kind of work through the maths for you and that kind of stuff, there's no shame in that. Do whatever you like. But here, I guess what I'm really saying is, internet hype, don't believe it. Like, everything is, when you hear people say, like, this faction's dead, this faction's garbage, now that the points are done, the one shtick they had is now ruined. Games can be played with it. You can submit feedback, but there's no reason to get angry. There's no reason to get stressed. And a lot of it, because we are in this new age where there's new missions and there's new challenges being presented by various by various gaming formats. Sorry, because there is still Path of Glory and that kind of stuff. Is a perfect time for you to explore new things that you never thought about trying. So, perfect example, Nick R. The Ogre Glutton's unit increased to 6 is nice, but with the coherency change, it just turns into a tar pit because not all of them can attack. I understand. Many factions are dealing with stuff with the core rules like that. I understand that it's a change. It's a big change. But it's an obstacle to be overcome when it comes to how do I get really good at model placement? How do I get really good at everything? And that's... I'm not telling you to not care about changes. You should absolutely care and send them into the feedback for GWs, FAQs, and that kind of stuff. But on the whole, I don't know. I guess I just feel like that change affects everybody, right? Whether you have a horde of storm vermin or whatever, like it hurt everybody. So that's actually a perfect example. Openness to change is a virtue. Use this as a chance to demonstrate your adaptability. Yeah. Brandon Tripp, reach out to me afterwards, man. We'll chat on Patreon or something like that. I'd love that. Let's see. So anyway, I'm sorry. I'm painting while referencing my notes every once in a while. So if I kind of pause for a hot second, that's why. Now, a few things that we just have to get over when it comes to the new edition. Just flat out, okay? One is coherency rules. They are different. It just is. And they're different universally. By that I mean everybody's affected as far as I know. There's no special rule for like, you get to ignore coherency rules unless it specifically says it. So just remember, if you're struggling with that, that's cool. Everybody else is too. Basically, anyone who took a unit more than 5 dudes is probably scratching their heads right now. How about that? Which is why I'm sticking with Stormcast. 5 dudes is their jam. Let's see. So some just hard facts that we all have to get into our brains. There's going to be more drops. There is only one core battalion that allows us to fully one drop anything, and it is very specific. So we just need to get used to the fact there are more drops in this game now. The game has gotten more brutal because Battle Shock is now a thing that you can use to hurt people. If you can spread it, Battle Shock debuffs to multiple units, which, for example, Nighthawk can do very, very easily. It just hasn't mattered up until now. You're in a really good place, at least at the moment. I mean, there's still lots of ways to mitigate it for the people who are going against it, but it is something you need to consider now, that Battle Shock might be the bane of your existence. which is good, ultimately, I think. It's a phase of the game that, quite frankly, for so long hasn't really mattered because it was so easy to step around. There is no competitive meta. When you think about how these changes affect you, a lot of times we think about how they would affect us in terms of maybe the last game that we played or something like that. But that game has changed for everybody. So it's just perspective. Just remember, everything's different for everybody. And I know that I have said that multiple times now, and I'm going to keep saying it because that seems to be the thing that the internet really seems to struggle with, is this idea that it's not just you who's going through a rough time of change. The best players that I know, and I mean, like, I am not a top table player, okay? I can just very firmly confirm that for you. But what I can say is that I know many of them. I really do. I've met them at Nova. I've met them at various conventions online. A lot of them enjoy narrative stuff, and so they reached out. And we've had like Joel McGrath on the channel and all those kinds of things. You know, and of course they have opinions about how things have changed and what's fair and whatever, and that's totally cool. My point in saying this is those kinds of players, the best people in this game, are the kinds of people who can look at these changes and rather than get upset, look for opportunity. You know, what shook up in my favor? What can I do with different unit base sizes? Things like that. I love they made my favorite way of playing Skaven more usable now. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. I mean, but that stuff's awesome. That's exactly how you do it. This is more interesting. So what I would say, trying to approach your battle tome with fresh eyes, and typically, I kind of save this discussion for more like list building stuff, but I think it makes sense here, is just saying, sit down with your battle tome, the points if you were able to find them online, and the core rules. And ask yourself, what kind of army do I want to make? Okay? Forget about things like coherency. And the reason I say this is because, again, everybody's going through the same thing with coherency, and you will learn this. It will become part of muscle memory about how you place models. It sucks right now, but the game has changed, and you'll learn. I promise you'll learn. So, with that being said, the core rule changes, you know, that affect everybody being said, what are some things that you would like to do with your army? And so this is where things get fun, because in addition to, you know, taking things away and putting a cap on large horde units to an extent, which is design space that they can explore in the future, you know, as far as giving certain armies the ability to run massive hordes and tons of them like they did before. What are some things that you can do that you couldn't before? I know a big example is, you know, now that nobody, quite frankly, is worried about War Scroll battalions like the narrative ones now, in terms of gaming for drops, there's a bit of freedom in that. It frees up points. Now, a few things got more expensive. I say a lot of stuff got more expensive, which I think is good because then it means you need to buy less. But now we have more drops. Who fits into battalions that can insta drop, which is great to have. And basically, I kind of go through my same thing when it comes to list building when I go to any faction. So I'm somebody who jumps factions a lot, like a lot. And so what I do when I'm looking at my initial like purchases and list building and that kind of thing, I always start with two things. One, am I building a list based on models that I like, or am I building a list based on a tactic that I want to do? So for example, like when I was doing Beasts of Chaos stuff, I took that, that was totally based on an in-game effect that I wanted to enjoy, which in that case, it was the Gave spawn. When you killed the dude, it would turn into a spawn. That idea and that mechanic just made me chuckle so much. So I was like, yeah, that's my jam. That's still perfectly legal. That hasn't changed at all. In fact, you're getting models on that one now. So there's like that, for example. And then you look at other things like, well, maybe you want to do Bravery Bomb. Well, that's on the table now for like anyone. If you're a Nighthawk player, that's a good rule. The changes to Battle Shock, because again, specifically in Death Armies, I would say there's just so many ways to play with Bravery. And it's something that people have glossed over for so long that, like, crack open your Battle Tome. Look at what you can actually do with Bravery. Like, it's going to matter. And I don't just mean, like, offensively, like hurting your opponent, but defensively. If you didn't catch it, the bonuses to Bravery for Hordes is gone. And that matters significantly when it comes to factions like Beasts of Chaos and stuff. Sorry, I'm just tidying up here. Let me see, I have my notes here. So for me, either I pick a theme. It's either it can be models that I want to use or an attack plan, which might be Bravery Bombs or Speed. You know, obviously models you want to use that look cool. And then I would say make a 2,000 point list with all of the goodies that you want in there. Don't think about what's right. Just make a 2,000 point list and jam it with all the models that you want to take, or anything that works towards the strategy, the battle tactic that you want to work towards, whether that's, tough lineman, tough, speed, Bravery Bomb, whatever. Magic focused is a great one. And then take that picture that I showed you that Coach put up of like the various core battalions. Just take something like that and be like, okay, how does that work with these? Right? Assign them to a core battalion that you think makes the most sense, and go from there and try it and play a game with it. I think a lot of why we see so much anxiety and stuff like that on the interwebs is because, unfortunately, right now we have all these great new rules and big changes to your faction, which you might like or not like. However, we don't have a whole lot of opportunity necessarily to go out and game with them, because people are waiting on all the information and FAQs and that kind of thing. So I understand that it's kind of a weird limbo zone. It hasn't been my favorite release in terms of rockiness, if I'm honest with you. A lot of information leaks out there and stuff. But just go start playing. Like, pick a thing that you like and just start gaming with it. And the reason that that's important is because, first of all, nothing beats real experience, but also it contextualizes things for you, for your opponent. It is easy to say, my army got railroaded because of points, because of reinforcement changes, because of whatever. But you don't know how other people are feeling the same way about their factions until you get them on the board and you're like, oh, you are also facing these restrictions, and this is what it meant for you in your context. Got it. So, like, again, that's a huge part of the game is just understanding how it affected everybody. Can't emphasize that enough. Nick R., I think a lot of frustration comes from feeling like we overdid it on buying units for our armies. I understand that. Especially horde armies, like Skaven, Beasts of Chaos, those kinds of things. And I want to make it clear, I'm not unsympathetic. Like, I'm not just telling everyone to like shut up and be happy. What I'm saying is this game changes and things will change, and it has changed. And we can be salty, or we can choose to embrace it as a challenge and figure out how to do well with it. So again, Nick, I'm not saying that like your changes aren't big, you haven't lost anything. I'm inviting people to look for the positives and look and understand that we're all in the same place and that it's a challenge for everybody. Now, for specific factions, let's see, they did. Ogres got hit hard with the point change. So did everybody, though. Like, so did everybody. And that's the thing I can't stress enough is the grass is not greener on the other side. No one walked away from these changes being like, well, I mean, I was going to say no one walked away from these changes being like, well, my list is intact. And then I remember that last night, Jack from Rolling Ones told me that his list is, but it's because he couldn't take the War Scroll Battalion he was using anymore. And then everything else got exactly enough expensive for him to be able to keep doing it. He's like, it's not good, but like the list doesn't function the same. He just thought it was a funny quirk with how the points worked out. But yeah, essentially just like saying, you know, man, you can't. Things change. I don't know how else to say it. I have said for quite a while. I'm trying to say this very tactfully, but it's a hard truth that I don't know how to say it without the potential to hurt some feelings. Okay. The people who complain the most about the competitive side of things, in terms of match play, points, and mission plans, and that kind of stuff, aren't the ones who are ever in danger of winning anything. Okay? And what I mean by that is the people who do win these events and are kind of the heralds of, like, you know, their armies that they play, like they're really good at playing X army type thing. Those are the people who look at these big changes and look for opportunities and challenges to overcome. And I would invite you to be like that, which is probably the most glowing example that I've ever given for telling people to be more like competitive players. But I mean, it's true, you know. I mean, you have people like Vince Ventrella, obviously, and Tom Lyons, Tyler, I don't even know Tyler's last name, but who did on Warhammer Weekly. You have obviously Jack from Rolling Ones. He's a competitive player and he does incredibly well. You know, something Jack's just been saying over and over again is like, the game changes. Like, it just does. That's all there is to it. Ooh, this guy's coming together. I like him. Let's grab that Vulpus Pink. Does anyone know how Soulblight Gravelords did in terms of changes? I don't think they changed much. I think they were kind of written with 3.0 in mind. Oh, baby AOS 3.0 is exciting. It is. It is. Now, I will be honest. I have not seen as much fear-mongering with this edition change as others. But then again, keep in mind, I do kind of tune out of social media if it gets a little bit noisome for me. As I said in my like how to win in 3rd edition video, I think it was just last week, you know, always go chat with people who are going to make you fall in love with what you're doing, with your hobby. So if you're on a Facebook group that's like, oh my god, we're ruined because of this point change, understand, points always change. Like, so much of point changes is just shooting from the hip based on how they think changes to the game will work. And I'm sure in a little bit, give it a few months, there will be revised changes because there are things they didn't account for. Maybe they didn't account for how the base sizes and coherency work with ogres. I understand that sucks, but it is what it is right now. I got nothing else for you. Kragnos dropped in points quite a bit. It's like they want him to be a certain amount for 2.0 and then immediately drop for 3.0. Yeah, I mean, there's some of those things where I'm like, I don't understand what you were thinking about. And that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, just wait and see. so many of the things when it comes to every army got a buff, if this makes you feel any better. When it comes to things like cover, and the reason I say that is because now they've defined ways to hide behind terrain, which does matter a great deal since there will be more smaller units on the table. I love that change. What else? I mean, we have just the myriad, the dearth of command abilities now we have in each phase. Again, blanket statement, everybody got something. That wasn't a complaint. Oh, no, I didn't think you were complaining. I just was just reading random things in the chat. Are points publicly available yet? Yeah, so Brandon, if you want to look up the points, I would go, you're on YouTube after this, go look up Facehammer is I think they're a podcast mostly, but they do like recordings. And they show, basically, content creators were told that we can share the points as soon as we get them. And so they just got theirs earlier than anybody else's. So they're great. They take their time going through everything in the GHB, so you can really get a sense of how things have changed. You just kind of, you can fast forward to like your section, basically. So yeah. So I'm going to pause there, okay? I know I've been a bit rambly. I apologize. I'm going to give a thesis statement and then pause. And then invite some back and forth dialogue. And if you have questions about a specific faction, I mean, honestly, if you want positivity, I will tell you the upsides of your faction, what you gained, okay? We'll play this game. I think that I am ready and willing. So my thesis statement is, everybody got rattled. Please do not think you are in a vacuum. Because that's an isolating feeling. It truly is. I understand. I'm taking that very seriously. You are not alone in that we are all scrambling to figure out what this means for our faction, and that can lead you down a road where it's very short-sighted in that it's like a logical fallacy almost. Everybody is dealing with the same thing. So don't look at the grass is greener. Don't be like, well, they got this and I didn't. We're all starting from square one. So what I would say, am I allowed to put a link in this chat? No, unfortunately, for some reason, I can't find the setting that YouTube, it auto freezes the links. Go ahead and try, and I'll see if it lets me approve it. But it's happened a few times where it won't even like let me approve the comment. But go ahead and try throwing it in the chat. Hopefully you can. But I appreciate it if you could. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm going to say. Give it a month. We have yet to find out how utterly broken the rules actually are. Andrew's got the right of it. It's like, we're all looking to the left. And maybe there's a rules thing that's on the right that none of us are even looking at. Which, you know, is a different kind of fun. Okay, Zach. For Beast Claws, with the new changes to board size and a plethora of smaller units and sub-factions, that gives reroll charges when with an 18 extra spicy. I agree. And also, the amount of damage that those big monsters can do when they charge on potentially smaller units, 5 to 10 man units now, is brutal. It's brutal. Is it confirmed that every model with a shield has had its save get better by 1? No? You mean like... Paulo, I'm sorry, I don't think I understand. No, I mean, it's just whatever's on their war scroll still. There's no blanket statements, as far as I know. Nothing quite like that. I will tell you that if you want to play Conquest, that is a rule in Conquest. If you got a shield, you have the shield rule. Electman24, I would love to hear your thoughts on Gloomspite, because the new lack of stacking, -1, has upended the list I wanted to build. Absolutely. One second, let me just clean my brush here. My thoughts on Gloomspite Gits. Personally, I don't know the most about the faction. I'm going to just admit that up front. I do think in a world where Wizards are at a premium because of the new endless spell rules. I think are awesome. Taking a Gobapalooza, which gets you either 2 or 3 wizards, is not a bad idea. I think, yes, there is a cap at negative modifiers. That's true. That being said, there are a lot of negative modifiers out there besides -1 hit. There's everything, if you're looking at endless spells, which is a thing that I highly recommend you do, because your guys are so cheap. You can take you can take 3 in a match play game, but like you can do it easily is what I'm trying to say, without even like batting an eyelash. So have a good look at those, because there's different kinds of negative modifiers out there. And that applies to everybody who has access to wizards that might be cheaper. So I like that quite a bit. I would highly recommend that. I don't think that they walked away nearly as bad as people seem to think they did. I do think that small units, like not reinforced units, that are bearing fanatics and those kinds of things, became much more brutal. Because your opponent can look across the table and be like, okay, well, I can just delete that unit with Battle Shock. It's a minimum sized thing. It's not reinforced at all. I can just delete that. But the second you start placing traps around and they still have to deal with the big fat, however the max size unit is now. Is it still 60, I think? I think that there's some real game there. And they have to play around. What I believe is really great about them is endless spells. So I would check out that. That's honestly, and for all of these, I don't know every single rule and every single faction. I'm just going to tell you what sounds interesting to me and what I would look into. How about that? I am going to try to keep everybody in, answer everybody I can. Looking at this as an opportunity to finally buy Thanquol and build a list around him. Matthew, yes, Thanquol is freaking baller right now. Like his stock has never been higher. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the I forgot the name of the ability, but basically when you get charged by someone, you have the chance to have a reactionary shot. Now that reactionary shot does have a -1 modifier, but he's blowing these huge gouts of flame and stuff like that. He will hurt somebody very, very badly. So Thanquol is, if anyone walked away as a winner, I'm going to say Thanquol. As a singular unit. So our Salamanders for Seraphon. What else? I still really like Beasts of Nurgle. Just they can act independently and just go crushing and stomping. I think I'm almost ready for washes on this guy. I wanted to get one done to kind of see how he looks and then move on to the others. So let's do washes. We got that's for the black. That's for the gold. Okay. I'm gonna give that paint just a hot second to dry and look in the chat here. I feel so spoiled as a Stormcast player. I already loved occasionally collecting heroes, and now I have even more reason to do so. Absolutely. There are factions with a lot of tiny heroes, very cheap ones, that I think people are overlooking. And I think Beast of Chaos is a perfect example. There's a lot of little heroes in there that are nasty. Same thing with Gloomspite Gitz. What else? I guess to a lesser extent, Slaves to Darkness. Yeah. Sorry if I'm late. How are the Seraphon looking in your opinion? Not heard a lot of talk about them. I mean, I'm not talking about points or anything like that. I'm just talking about opportunities that they have. They have a lot of monsters. I love the fact that they split the profile of the Bastiladon based on what it's carrying on its back. It used to be, Bastiladon costs as many points. You could take the Ark of Sotek, or you can take the lightning beam that shoots gods out of the sky. Which one do you want? And it's just like obvious. No, now they're different things, different purposes. I like that quite a bit. For Spiderfang, Skitterstrand or Ragnarok ambushing has been made much more useful because of the smaller unit sizes. Yes, anything that can operate independently has been made very, very good. Like, units that are mediocre but don't require any buffs will always do better than a unit that requires something from them. And that's exactly what we are looking at right now. Any thoughts about Orc war clans? That's an interesting one, simply because if you're talking about Orc war clans as we know them now, honestly, bravery has always been a thing with them. It always will be. I like that. That's just an Orc trope. As far as their weapons and stuff like that, I think people have always been sleeping on Big Stabbas. That is my thought. I freaking love that unit. It's got Ren 3 on a stick and it can just ram into people. And I like that. It is in a word, unsubtle. How about that? And I like unsubtle rules where it's just like, this is a threat, it's coming at you and you need to deal with it. I think that the reason I kind of hesitated on Orc war clans is simply because we do know that what are they called? Cruel Boys. Cruel Boys are going to be added to them as an option, like for Big WA. And so that's why it's not hesitating because I think they're in a bad place. It's just that we don't have the full picture yet. But in terms of like what they have that they can offer, again, Savage Orcs, the Bone Splitter half of the equation, has so many good little heroes that are all absolutely expendable, and that makes them dangerous. And I mean, I don't know any other way to word that. It does. It makes them dangerous because they can go up and throw a hero casually into a combat area and not really have to care all that much about if he dies or not. I mean, obviously you don't want your units to die, but relative to some other factions who are much more hero-centric. Give me just a moment here. I'm just doing some quick little trim details. Boop, get the eyes. And just a little more definition there. I apologize for the silence. I just need a moment to get my shading done with a fine brush. Keep throwing in factions. Again, I'm not telling you that your faction is like perfectly fine, don't worry about it. I'm just saying that there is positivity to be had, and I'm the kind of person that looks for it. Also, this is some epic ass music that I'm listening to, right? I don't even know how this got on the calm playlist. Do this, we'll throw a wash on for the gold, and then we'll have a chance to let it sit for a bit while it dries. Can't do a whole lot while the wash is drying. Cool. Trace. Ooh. Whatever paint I just got in my mouth. Not bueno. Okay, I'm putting this guy down for just a minute. We'll go back to the chat here. Yep, any army that has summoning access is fantastic. That's awesome. So does this mean Troggoths are better now? So Troggoths, I need to take a look at their war scroll. I do like the idea of Troggoths working independently just because they don't need a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they can hold a flank, guard an objective, that kind of thing, and I just like that quite a bit. It's so hard to gather a bunch of big stabbers. I mean, that's not an addition change. That's just It's just a problem with their model kit, but I understand. So this is AOS 3 therapy with Doug. Question, are Flesh Eater Courts still the most competitive army in the game? Well, if you're asking me as a joke that I've long held on this channel, the answer is, of course, yes. If you're asking like legitimately from a competitive standpoint, I have no idea. But I do know that they walked away from this change looking pretty good because of all the hero actions, monster abilities that they have. I still think there's a reason to reinforce a unit with a bunch of ghouls to act as just a thick meat shield that's so hard for everyone to chew through. My Ossiarch Bone Reaper list that I deliberately bought for 3.0, unchanged. Nice. Legions of Asgore. I don't know a thing about them, to be honest with you, and their rules. It's always been a Forge World thing. Honestly, when it comes to Legions of Asgore, I'm going to be real with you. I am mentally checked out and uninterested because they have been name dropped multiple times in the Dominion box set. Like when it comes to how the Hobgrots and Cruel Boys, their origins, they're literally referenced multiple times. So my thought is, I'm not worried about them right now. I think they have a bright future ahead of them, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because to be honest, I never liked the way Forge World supplemented their armies. Like, I just never did. I didn't like it with the Tomerkin's Horde thing. I don't like, quite frankly, the business strategy they have with Forge World, where it's this weird off-to-the-side cousin project. Idnith are my favorite. Doug, do you think 3.0 changes will open things up for more army building variations than just eels? Well, that's a tough one, because Deepkin has its own set of problems going on. Internal balance, I think, is a bigger issue with that book than it is... like, the reason it's all eels is not because eels are the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's because everything else in the book has some problems with it when compared to eels, and I haven't seen their points or anything like that. I don't know how that's all shaken up. I know that eels are really happy about the number of small minimum units that are now on the table. But they themselves, when it's just 3 dudes, don't love being charged. So I don't know. That one's kind of a hard one for me. I really want Deepkin to have the Namarti kind of take the 4 at some point, just because I do think that they are the coolest part of that army. That one's a little tough one. Let's see. Hey Doug, I'm new to AOS and just learned the old rules, and I was skeptical of the new rules, but you swayed me. I'm excited to play 3.0. Oh, buddy, you're so welcome. I mean, honestly, it's just the game just changes. It changes every once in a while. Yeah. How are Gutbusters doing in the 3.0 rules? There is a lot of adjustment because of the way coherency works, and they changed the unit sizes for gluttons. Is that what they call the basic ogre dudes? So coherency is a big topic for them. I would say focusing when you're playing your few games, your first few games of third, rather than worrying about, necessarily your opponent's strategy or anything like that, really focus on your model placement. Model placement is a thing that it is so easy to forget, and yet it represents 90% of this game. It's easy to look over and you're like, oh yeah, I want to line up this charge and just kind of surge your guys forward, and then kind of get yourself in a wonky position when it comes time to actually fight. That happens a lot. But again, that's something that affects every single army. Not equally, of course, but every single army. Andrew Fairbanks, wait, the new orcs are just a part of Warclans? No. They're going to have their own book, but the way that Big WA works, currently, and it was confirmed in their videos, is that it's an army based on greenskins, and so they can be a part of Big Wall. So they're not just a part of the new war clans, but they will be able to be. So that's why when I was talking about war clans, I was like, well, we don't have the full picture, because Big Wall is a fantastic allegiance to take, and we don't quite know all the deets on what's coming out for the rest of the Cruel Boys. At Doug, as a Magkin player, do you have experience on how fun the maggot riders are? So Florian, are you talking about the mortal ones, or because like there's demons that ride flies, and then there's the mortal ones? I used the Puscoil Blight Lords, which is the mortals riding flies, a lot, like very, very extensively. And they were actually my favorite unit in the entire faction. Now, as far as Nurgle as a whole, I think Nurgle walked away real good. A lot of people are lamenting the loss of the battalions, and they were a big part of the strategy. But of course, battalions, everybody lost battalions, so I don't think too much on that. However, the great thing about Maggotkin is that so many of their units are tough that they can go off on their own, and even in minimum sizes, do work. Blight Kings do work. Puscoil Blight Lords, they count as a bunch of dudes on an objective now. Remember, objectives, how much you count for is based upon your wounds and or monster keyword, so they matter, I believe, a lot. If that's the unit you're asking. I mean, the same goes for the flies that have demons on them, but yeah. Do we know how the malign sorcery endless spells changed? Because I know cogs changed. Yes, so in the new General's Handbook, you can read that when it comes out. They do have new war scrolls for all of for the ones that every army can take. I haven't looked too deeply into those, to be honest with you. But I do intend to be using endless spells, because I believe that that is a resource that's going to become extremely important. And if your faction has them, look at them again. Because the reason I say that, because you'll have some that are like, you know, this affects Battle Shock, and for the longest time, we don't even think about it because we wrote it off for Battle Shock was just a meaningless phase of the game. It's not anymore. It's super duper not. So kind of keep that in mind. Again, it's all about fresh eyes. Okay. I missed one thing of gold on this guy, of course. Will every army get a new battle tome for 3.0? I have no idea. Cannot confirm or deny. My assumption is probably. If nothing else, it'll be a good opportunity for them to try and sell models again, but that's all I got. Sweet, everything's washed. All I gotta do is some blue and white highlights. You'll be good to go. I like this. He looks good. Okay, let's look at some more questions here. Nick says, so just thinking about it, with most units shrinking down, you get a maxed unit of gluttons. That's 18 times 4 wounds. That's 72 wounds. And can probably outlast most units. Oh, like just keep other units busy? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a wall. It's a miserable meat mountain that your opponent doesn't want to deal with. And like, yeah, they're not going to be the most attacky thing ever. That being said, they don't need to be. That's not how you win the game. You win the game on objectives. I just started learning the game, was always confused about battalions. Now they are different. Could you explain exactly how they work? Sure thing, Noel. So it used to be that in the back of the book, you would have these like very narrative-focused collections of models, and you would get special rules for them. And it got very cumbersome because they were like some that were super good, you saw all the time, and some that you never did. When you stack on top of that every time you take a battalion, it lowers the number of drops that you have because you can put them all out at once. You also get an extra artifact and all these kinds of things. So it became like the haves and the have-nots. So what they did was they said, forget all that. You can't use the battalions in your the back of your book for matched play specifically. You can still use them for Path to Glory, narrative play, anything like that. But they don't. The new ones are called core battalions. They're in the main book. They don't cost any points to use. And they just kind of give you like little once per game buffs here and there. It's a great way to kind of spice up or add options to an army without constricting it into the haves and the have-nots. And so that's kind of the idea. So what I've been suggesting to people is just make your army list. Let's say you're doing matched play at 2,000 points. You need a leader and 3 battle line. Sort that out first. Fill your list with what you want, and then see how you can get things to fit into the core battalions. Be my suggestion. But Doug, I'm concerned that my 25,000 points of mixed Dogs of War, Kislev, Firmir, Zotes, and Squats War Master army have no place in the future of AOS 3rd. That's a nice troll comment. I like it. Does that mean ogres lose their special rule for monsters being 10 points and ogres being 2 per model? No. So the way it is, the rulebook has functioned is that battle tomes surpass the core rules with the exception of a few very specific statements, such as like the no more than +1 modifier to your save or something like that. So what that means is your ogre guys, you're still doing, because you are one of the few factions that has access to, like, you know, having models count as more than the number of models and to capture an objective. Your Maw Tribes thing, it's fine. It hasn't changed. You're good. That's just for everybody else. Everybody else, we either are based upon how many models are there, if there's a monster, or a 5 or more wound model. We don't have any dates on any battle tomes. Nope, nothing. You know, it was weird when they released Indomitus, which was the last 40k set that was just like Dominion in terms of being exclusive and that kind of thing. They waited a couple months or something like that, I believe. I think it was like a month or 2. So I don't really know when we're going to have our new battle tomes for those things. Thanks for the answer. You're very welcome. So yeah, it's what else we got? Who else needs some positivity for their faction? Huh? Hit me with what you got. Who do you think got hurt the worst? Let me try and be nice about it. And take a sip of water here. Zach says 20 minutes till go time. Oh, is that when global ordering starts? 20 minutes? Yeah, it sounds about right. So yeah, folks, if you want to get Dominion, or I guess any of those things, right? I went to my local store and I pre-ordered the Path to Glory book just because it's something I really, really wanted. Fire Slayers, how will they fare, as I'm unsure? The Heretic. Well, here's the thing that the Fire Slayers really have going for them. They only have like 4 units, and all of them have a way of becoming battle line if. So when you're talking about the reinforcement limit, just kind of keep that in mind of like, 1, battle line options, yes, even if they are battle line if, can be reinforced twice. So if you're looking for big mobs, that's not a bad way to go. What I like about Fire Slayers, there are a few ways to mitigate battle shock outside of Inspiring Presence. What else? I think Magma Droths are going to be a big deal, if I'm honest with you, because they have a lot of buffs that hurt larger units, like, you know, roll a die if it's less than number of models around it or whatever, those kinds of abilities. And I think when you pit a Magmadroth specifically against the 1 or 2 large units that your opponent can field, I do think those abilities have become more valuable. Like, if we're not living in a world where everybody can have as many models in a unit as they want, which is what it was before, you know, in terms of like you can just keep buffing them up until they're max. Now we only have 2 reinforcement abilities or 3, or, you know, whatever game size you're playing. Having a unit that can do more damage based on the number of models is it's a good buddy to have, in my opinion. Now, I also think that they won because of magmic invocations, and they just have a lot of priests. Priests are awesome. I think they just offer a lot of control to the game and the way it functions. Don't overlook the fact that you have cool ways to alternately deploy with your Forge guys. I can't remember the name of the 4 Fire Slayer units. I don't know why. They just do not stay in my brain. The ones who let you basically burrow up from the ground. Scion of Chaos, Slanesh is dead. Sure, buddy. If that's what if that's where your head's at, I'm not gonna pull you out of it. I disagree. Everyone keeps saying monster units are so much more potent in 3rd, and as a Seraphon player, I'm pretty excited about it. Sweet. I think that the Gloomspite Git's current strategy got hit terribly, but because it's such a diverse book, it'll be fun to experiment with new ones. I agree, and I super respect that approach of like, yes, the main way that it was working right now took a hit, but we will overcome this new challenge that is set forth for everybody. Give me just a moment. I know I just saw a question for me. Okay. If Flesh Eater Courts, I'm wondering if Flesh Eater Courts will stand up in 3rd. I think Flesh Eater Courts are in a fantastic place. They've got monsters. They've got heroes. They've got heroes riding monsters. They've got, honestly, a lot of abilities and ways, like with their throne and stuff, to not have to spend command points on things that they want to do. And that has not changed. What else? Oh man, got some blue on that gold. I'll have to go clean that up. That's okay. Would you mind clarifying why Battle Shock is now so important? Sure. So there's two reasons that I think Battle Shock is really important, and that is, one, you can only use Inspiring Presence once now, and it does have a limited radius based on what hero is using it. There's that. But the bigger thing to me is that now there are no more in the game horde bonuses. So it used to be for every 10 models in a unit, you would get +1 to your bravery. Not so anymore. So now if you have a big fat unit and you don't give them Inspiring Presence, they are now a liability, or can potentially be a liability. And since you can only Inspiring Presence once, if you are an army that has access to multiple ways to cause negative Battle Shock modifiers, you can spread those around and make your opponent make some very uncomfortably bad choices when it comes to what unit receives the buff, which ones have to just take the Battle Shock test on the nose, and you can kind of like wither away your opponent's army on the side via that way. Let's see. Will the new Path to Glory rules be in the new core book? Yes. Are pre-orders going up today or tomorrow? They go up today, I think, in 15 minutes. Just joining in, I think I'm going to stick to my horror heavy list for Flesh Eater Courts. but just do units of 3 and 6. I think that's a wonderful idea. I think, honestly, trying to play the army that you know with more minimum-sized units, I think is a good idea. See what that looks like. You know, and obviously some units, they get bonuses for being in larger groups, but it's not a necessity, all that kind of stuff. Just try it. Nick, I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but if an artifact that adds +1 to hit towards monsters, and then use all-out attack to boost +2 towards monsters. One is an AoE, the other is an ability. Oh, I could be wrong. Thank you, Scott, if it's not today. Nick, I don't think I fully understand. I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but if I have an artifact that's +1 to hit towards monsters, and then use all-out attack, can you boost +2 to hit? So my understanding, no, that modifiers to hit are capped at +1. So you can stack them. Technically, yes, because one's an aura, one's an an ability. But you'll never get more than +1. Now, if you have +2 to hit your monster, like you've stacked those abilities, and your opponent has a, I don't know, -1 to be hit thing, you'll still get your +1. So it does cancel out, but yeah. A Seraphon player, then Terrain Lover, the new monster rules makes me happy. Absolutely. Not sure how I feel about the basic 3 battle line in Soulblight Gravelords. I feel like zombies are the only real winners. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, Scott. I think that direwolves are my fave. Are my fave because they can be so aggressive. They can be so fast and so aggressive. And for me, those are 2 traits that I think are absolutely awesome. Speed and aggression are how I've always played my armies. It's always about running up and pinning your opponent down. How do you think older Stormcast will stack up against the newer Thunderstrike guys? That's a great question. Honestly, they're not terribly dissimilar, if I'm really honest with you. I mean, like, their profiles are pretty much identical. Still suffer from mobility. They're just not a fast army in terms of high movement values. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I hadn't really thought about it, but they're not really all that different at all. I guess pre-orders are tomorrow, yeah. Of the armies point reworks, I saw that a lot of Beast of Chaos stuff went up, but Zengor's went down. Thoughts? Seems like a buff to what was already meta for them and a nerf to everything else. I'm not gonna lie, Beasts of Chaos are in a weird place. Not just because of all of that stuff, but because of their loss of their battalions that lets them fit into other armies was a very prominent way to play them. I would have to check that a bit more. As far as things that are going for Beasts of Chaos, though, I will say having multiple small threats is going to be brutal for them. Like, in a good way. Like, they can field a butt ton of units. Like, because they're all, I mean, even with the points increase, they're still dirt cheap compared to other people. So, having a bunch of threats that your opponent has to deal with, I do think is going to be a problem for many opponents. You're going to lose a lot to Battle Shock. That is the way of Beast of Chaos. I don't know what to tell you. That's their army's theme, is dying. I do think that a lot of new life has been given to their endless spells above anyone else's. The Bull Taurus endless spell is incredible. Okay, it always was, but it was less finicky because you didn't have control over it all the time. Now with the new endless spell rules, you do, and it is brutal. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. You should pick up some Evocators and Dracolines. That's actually, I was thinking about that next. Have you played many games with the new rules? Does it play completely different? Honestly, it really doesn't. I've played one game so far, unfortunately, because I was under NDA, that I couldn't share the rules, which includes playtesting with people. So, and I I take that very seriously. And so I unfortunately did not... Sorry, I'm getting a little quiet. I had to do some details here. Unfortunately did not get a chance to play as many games as I would like. But I do think I have one coming up next weekend that I'm very excited for. What else? I love the Direwolves, however, I'm just not sure how the new coherency rule will impact them. But that's the thing, it impacts everybody. Like, I understand that hesitation, I really do. You just gotta remember, it affects everybody. So if you're worried about them being a little too clumped up, their targets are also clumped up. I got a plan for a war herd list. I've been keeping some tabs on them. Yeah, I mean, it's... I don't know, they don't have the monster keyword, but I still think that they have game. I hate how long the banner on this guy's flag is. I feel like I'm always dragging it on my painting table as I turn this guy around. And they even made the arm really easy to leave off. But I was like, no, I can do this. I can just paint her all up. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Easy peasy, it was not. Okay. What else we got? What novels are good for new players just starting playing? And I like Sylvaneth. For Sylvaneth, I think Dark Harvest is one that I've heard that a lot of people like. What else? The Neve Black Talon series, they feature... that's a good entry point, I think. They're nice little self-contained stories. They're about Stormcast, but she interacts very, very heavily with Sylvaneth allies and that kind of thing. Could point you in that direction. Okay. All right, friends, I'm going to go ahead and put out the call for any last questions or anything like that. Been talking for a bit. I got some more recording to do. But I didn't want anyone to feel like I was ignoring them. Not Sylvaneth, but Overlord's Iron Drake is very underrated. I will read that one. Get some last little details on the hand here. Got a few points I got to clean it up with some Ulthuan Gray. That's all right. Oh, let's see. Will the shooting meta only get stronger now? That's an interesting question that I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a strong answer to that one for you. I'll be honest with you though, like I'm not somebody who is playing in the top competitive tables and stuff. So like when you say shooting meta, I have not encountered the quote unquote shooting meta outside of Jack, who played his shootcast list before people were talking about shooting metas and that kind of stuff. So I don't know, and honestly, I think that kind of speaks to another aspect of the hobby and internet coverage of stuff is like, how much of this are you actually facing week to week at a game store versus what the internet tells you should be afraid of, kind of a deal, where it's like, I've never experienced any like truly negative play experiences based on that stuff, which I know I am fortunate, but so it's all Jack's fault. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, blame Jack. He's the one who's like, oh, I don't know why everyone's saying Stormcasts are bad. I'm kicking tail with them. And everyone's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just shooting stuff. And they're like, you should steal that idea. So yeah, I for one blame Jack wholeheartedly. That's his legacy. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. Hey. Yes, because coherency doesn't hurt shooting units as much as it does remove shots. The way it removes combat attacks. I don't think I understand that one. Do you plan on doing videos about your Path to Glory campaigns? Yes. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't see that earlier. Yes, I do. The episode I put out was just called Episode 0 for that exact reason of just like, hey, I'm just setting things up. I didn't know the points at the time. I think I do need to do some readjustments based on the points that we now know and that kind of stuff, which that's fine. But yes, I do plan to update. Maybe not every single game. Actually, probably every single game. I won't lie to you. Just because there's so much involved in the in-between things about territories and buying dudes and that kind of stuff. So nice. I think this is a nicely done Knights Excelsior dude, and I would be happy to field him. Okay. Sweet, so we got a scheme down. I just wanted to make sure that I understood where I wanted all the paint in the scheme to go, and now I can focus on the rest of them. So, sweet, these should be cranking out pretty quick, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead. It does at the edge of the range extent of the unit. Tap hammer shooting is always going to be superior. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have minded some, I don't know, more negative modifiers. I know in Conquest, basically people can shoot, but if you are outside of half the range of the weapon, so let's say it's a 12-inch range gun, which is pretty minimal. If you're outside of 6 inches, so if you're in between 6.1 and 12, you get half the shots. I wouldn't have minded something like that if I'm totally honest with you, but I mean, it is what it is. I think they'll adjust it based on whatever. I could see shooting being a problem for the fact that it prompts a lot of battle shock tests. But I don't know. And then it comes down to like the objectives and with the missions you're playing and that kind of stuff. It honestly, with more units being minimum sized, I would really look into just having single fast units that are not reinforced that can rush up and pin down or at least engage some ranged attacks and that kind of stuff if possible. Let's see. Okay. Friends, I think I'm going to hop off for the day. How long have we been going? We're going for almost 2 hours. That's typically what I do when I stream. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off for the day. I'll throw pictures up here as I'm cranking out content and progress on these Stormcast dudes. But thank you so much for joining me. Again, I know I rambled. I know I jumped around a lot. The really point I'm trying to say is changes affect everybody. Changes never stop coming. And there's a lot in these books that you can be excited about. So just take some time with your battle tome, turn off Facebook, turn off Twitter, and just enjoy what you love about the hobby and build lists around it, and then just start playing it. Just start playing it. And then if things suck, change it. If they don't, or you see problems where you can solve solutions, workshop it. So that's all I'm saying. Anyway, friends, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will catch you on my next episode of While You're Reforging next Friday. Happy wargaming.